Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the window of the Nordvik research station, watching ribbons of aurora dance across the Greenland sky. The clock read 3:27 a.m., but in December, darkness ruled these latitudes. She lifted her mug of coffee, only to find it had gone cold hours ago. The seismographs had been acting strange all week, recording patterns that made no sense, rhythmic pulses that couldn't be explained by normal geological activity. The first indication that this night would change human history forever came as a low-frequency hum that made her teeth ache. The aurora above twisted, forming impossible shapes as something massive punctured the curtain of lights. Sarah grabbed her satellite phone, fingers trembling as she dialed the emergency frequency. "This is Nordvik. We have something entering the atmosphere directly above us. This isn't a drill." The object was massive, easily the size of an aircraft carrier, but it moved with impossible grace for something so large. As it descended, Sarah could see its surface was covered in what looked like crystalline structures, refracting the aurora's light in mesmerizing patterns. The wind picked up, driving snow against the station's reinforced windows as the object settled into a landing pattern. "Security team, maintain distance but stay alert," she ordered through the internal comm system. "Dr. Patel, begin atmospheric readings." Hansen hit the long-range cameras online. The object touched down 3 kilometers from the station, sending tremors through the permafrost. Steam rose where its landing struts met the ice, and for several long minutes, nothing happened. Sarah's team maintained radio silence, their breathing the only sound in the control room. Then the object began to change. Its crystalline surface shifted, plates realigning themselves like a flower blooming in fast motion. A soft blue light emanated from within, and something emerged, multiple somethings. Through the high-powered cameras, Sarah watched as figures moved across the snow. They were tall, easily 3 meters in height, with bodies that seemed to be composed of overlapping plates of some translucent material. Light pulsed through their forms in complex patterns, and they moved with a fluid grace that suggested they were perfectly adapted to their environment. "My God," Dr. Patel whispered, "they're silicon-based. The readings, they're like nothing we've ever seen." The creatures were approaching the station, leaving trails in the snow that crystallized behind them. Sarah made a decision that would echo through human history. "Open external communications on all frequencies," she ordered. "And someone get me the UN Secretary General's direct line. We're about to make first contact." The leading figure raised what appeared to be an appendage toward the station. A burst of light erupted from it, resolving into a series of complex geometric patterns that hung in the air between them. "It's a language," Dr. Hansen breathed. "They're trying to talk to us." Sarah stepped closer to the window. The patterns shifted, becoming more organized, more deliberate. And then, impossibly, they began to form into recognizable shapes. Earth's solar system, arranged precisely as it would appear from 40 light-years away. They didn't find us by accident, Sarah realized. They were looking for us specifically. The patterns shifted again, and this time the message was unmistakable. A series of images showing their crystalline ship being pursued by something dark, something that consumed everything in its path. The final image showed Earth, with the pursuer's arrival time marked in astronomical coordinates. 3 months. Whatever was chasing them would be here in 3 months. "Get me everyone," Sarah ordered. "Military, NASA, ESA, every space agency and defense force on the planet. And find me someone who can translate geometric light patterns." As she watched the aliens approach, Sarah felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Humanity had just been thrust onto a cosmic stage they hadn't known existed, and their first role would be as protectors of refugees from the stars. The crystalline beings reached the station's main airlock. Their light patterns had shifted to a steady, pulsing rhythm that somehow conveyed both urgency and hope. Sarah grabbed her heavy Arctic gear and headed for the airlock. Whatever these beings were running from, whatever was chasing them across the stars, humanity would face it with them. As she cycled through the airlock's protocols, Sarah thought about how this moment would be remembered. Humanity's first contact wasn't with conquerors or traders, but with refugees seeking sanctuary. And in that moment, she knew humanity's response would define them for generations to come. The outer door began to open, letting in a blast of Arctic air and the soft blue glow of their visitors. Sarah straightened her back and stepped forward to meet them. The future of two species, maybe more, would depend on what happened in the next few minutes. Behind her, the station's systems hummed to life, cameras recording every moment, instruments gathering data, and communication channels opening to every major capital on Earth. But in that moment, it was just Sarah Chen, a scientist at the top of the world, preparing to shake hands, or whatever passed for hands, with humanity's first extraterrestrial visitors. The leading crystalline being lowered itself to match her height, its light patterns shifting to something that seemed almost gentle. And in that gesture, Sarah saw something universal, the humility of asking for help and the dignity of offering it. 2 weeks after first contact, the United Nations Extraterrestrial Response Center in Geneva hummed with activity. Holographic displays filled the air, showing the crystalline being's light language translated into streams of data. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Security Council, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "We're calling them the Lumini," she explained, gesturing to the towering crystalline figure beside her. The being's name was Velra, though it had taken days to establish even that basic fact. Their method of communication is extraordinary. Each pattern of light carries layers of meaning, language, mathematics, and emotional resonance simultaneously. The delegate from China leaned forward. "And what have they told us about this threat that follows them?" Velra's surface rippled, emitting patterns that the newly developed translation systems rendered into words on the surrounding screens. The being's lights pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as deep distress. "They call them the Void Hunters," Sarah translated, though the computers were already doing the same. The Lumini discovered them at the edges of their territory, moving between the stars like a virus moves between cells. They don't build ships. They are ships. Living darkness that consumes everything in its path, breaking down matter at the quantum level to fuel their expansion. "How advanced are these hunters?" the American representative asked, her fingers drumming nervously on the table. Sarah nodded to Dr. Patel, who brought up new holographic displays. "The Lumini are centuries ahead of us technologically, yet they couldn't stop the hunters." "But," she paused, making eye contact with each council member, "they believe we can help them find a way. There's something about Earth's specific conditions that the hunters can't tolerate." The revelation sent murmurs through the chamber. Velra stepped forward, its crystalline form catching the light. The translation system worked overtime as complex patterns emerged. "Our worlds fell because we fought alone," the screens displayed. "We sought perfection in isolation, believed our crystalline forms made us superior. We were wrong. Your species, so brief, so fragile, you understand something we forgot. Adaptation, change, working together despite differences. These are strengths, not weaknesses." The Secretary General raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Chen, you've spent the most time with the Lumini. What exactly are they proposing?" Sarah took a deep breath. "They want to teach us everything they know. All their technology, their understanding of physics, their medical advances, everything. In return, they want us to help them learn how to fight back. Not just with weapons, but with strategy, with unconventional thinking, with human ingenuity. Everything." The Russian delegate's eyes widened. "They would give us centuries of advancement. There must be a catch." Velra's lights pulsed rapidly. The translation appeared. "The catch, as you say, is survival. What we offer must be used now, immediately. The Void Hunters follow our quantum wake. They will reach this system in 68 of your days. If we cannot find a way to stop them, they will consume everything, your cities, your oceans, your very atmosphere." The chamber erupted in concerned discussion. Sarah watched as the politicians debated, argued, and gradually came to terms with the situation. She thought about the tests they'd been running in Greenland, about how the Lumini's crystalline technology interfaced with Earth's magnetic field in unexpected ways. "There's more," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The Lumini ships, they're not just vessels. They're incubators. There are thousands of Lumini children in suspended animation aboard those ships, an entire generation preserved in the hope of finding sanctuary." The room fell silent. Velra's lights dimmed to a soft, steady pulse that the translation system interpreted as grief. "We did not wish to burden you with this knowledge immediately," the screens showed, "but we cannot hide it any longer. The ships that brought us here are failing. The children will begin to emerge from suspension within months, if we have not found safety by then." Sarah watched understanding dawn on the faces around her. This wasn't just about protecting Earth anymore. It was about preventing the extinction of a species that had entrusted humanity with its most precious possession, its future. The Secretary General stood, her expression resolute. "Dr. Chen, you said the Lumini's technology interacts with our planet's magnetic field. Expand on that." "We've discovered that their crystalline structures resonate with Earth's geomagnetic frequencies in a way that seems to disrupt the Void Hunter's quantum-level feeding process. It's not enough on its own, but if we could amplify it, adapt it," she gestured to the displays showing their preliminary research, "we might be able to create a defense system that combines their technology with our planet's natural properties." "How long would it take to implement something like that?" Sarah met Velra's gaze, seeing the same mix of fear and hope she felt reflected in its shifting lights. "With the Lumini's knowledge and every nation working together, maybe 2 months. It'll be close, but we have no choice," the Secretary General finished. She looked around the chamber. "The vote before us is simple. Do we accept the Lumini's offer and commit Earth's resources to this defense project?" One by one, the hands went up. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as Velra's form blazed with patterns that needed no translation. Pure joy, relief, and gratitude. The real work was just beginning. They had 68 days to prepare Earth for an enemy that had driven an advanced civilization to the brink of extinction. But as Sarah watched humans and Lumini already beginning to work together, sharing ideas and making plans, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. The price of knowledge was responsibility, and humanity had just chosen to pay it in full. The Atacama Desert glowed under the Chilean night sky, but it wasn't just starlight illuminating the landscape. Massive crystalline structures rose from the sand, their surfaces pulsing with blue-white energy that synchronized with Earth's magnetic field. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside Velra, watching as human engineers worked alongside Lumini technicians to calibrate the latest defensive array. 36 days, Sarah murmured, checking her tablet. "We've accomplished more in a month than humanity did in the last century. But will it be enough?" Velra's lights formed patterns that Sarah could now read without the translator. "Your species continues to surprise us. We thought the knowledge transfer would take years. Instead, your scientists and engineers adapted our technology in ways we never imagined." She smiled, remembering the breakthrough moment when a young engineer from Kenya had suggested combining Lumini crystalline technology with Earth's existing satellite network. The resulting hybrid system had exponentially increased their defensive coverage. "Director Chen," a voice called from the command center, "the quantum sensors are picking up something at the edge of the solar system." Sarah's heart raced as she and Velra hurried inside. The Global Defense Network's main control room was a marvel of human Lumini cooperation. Holographic displays showed Earth's new defensive systems, a web of crystalline satellites, ground-based arrays, and underwater installations that turned the planet's magnetic field into a weapon. Dr. Puddle pointed to a dark spot on the long-range sensors. "It's not the main hunter force. Too small. Probably a scout." "They're testing our defenses." Velra's patterns flickered with concern. "This is how they began with our worlds. First the scouts, then Then we give them something to think about, Sarah said firmly. She opened a channel to the Global Defense Council. This is Director Chen. Scout vessel detected. Requesting permission to activate the Aegis network for live fire testing. The response came immediately. Permission granted. All stations, battle stations, around the world, defensive arrays hummed to life. The crystalline structures brightened, their energy synchronizing with Earth's magnetic field. In orbit, the hybrid satellites aligned themselves, creating a web of quantum-disrupting fields. Scout vessel entering Mars orbit, an operator announced. Tracking steady. Sarah watched the displays, her hand unconsciously reaching out to steady Velra, who had begun to tremble. The last time the Lumini had faced a hunter vessel, they had lost an entire colony. Not this time, Sarah promised. Aegis network at full power. Target locked. On my mark. The scout vessel accelerated, its dark mass distorting space around it. It moved exactly as Velra had described, like a virus seeking a cell to infect. Fire. The defensive network activated. Earth's magnetic field surge, amplified by the crystalline technology. A wave of energy rippled outward, visible from space as a blue-white pulse that encompassed the entire planet. When it reached the scout vessel, the effect was immediate. The dark mass writhed, its quantum structure disrupted by the combined force of Earth's natural defenses and Lumini technology. For a moment, it seemed to struggle, trying to adapt. Then it shattered, breaking apart into harmless particles that scattered across space. The control room erupted in cheers. Sarah hugged Dr. Patel, then turned to Velra, whose lights were pulsing with amazement. How? The alien asked. We spent centuries trying to fight them directly. How did you know this would work? Sarah smiled. Because we didn't try to outfight them. We turned our planet's natural properties into a defense. The hunters break down matter at the quantum level, but they've never encountered a magnetic field amplified by crystalline technology and guided by both human and Lumini intelligence. The main force will adapt, Velra cautioned. They will not all fall so easily. We're counting on it, Sarah replied, bringing up new displays. This was just the test run. Wait until they meet our full defensive capabilities. The screen showed installations around the world, crystalline arrays rising from the Siberian tundra, floating platforms in the Pacific generating quantum disruption fields, modified satellites creating a protective web around the planet. But most impressive were the new ships under construction, hybrid vessels that combined human innovation with Lumini technology. The children? Sarah asked softly. Velra's lights brightened. The new habitats are nearly ready. Your people's commitment to saving them. The aliens' patterns shifted to express deep emotion. We will never forget this. Sarah nodded, watching as more data streamed in from the scout vessel's destruction. Every piece of information would help them refine their defenses. They had just over a month until the main hunter force arrived, but for the first time, she truly believed they had a chance. Break time's over, she announced to the control room. That scout won't be the last. I want full analysis of the engagement, proposals for improvements, and status reports from all installations within the hour. The hunters wanted to test our defenses. Let's make sure the next one sends back a message they won't forget. As the team returned to work, Sarah gazed at the starlit desert through the command center's windows. Somewhere out there, the hunters were coming, expecting to find another easy target. Instead, they would find humanity standing shoulder to shoulder with the Lumini, ready to protect their shared home. The real battle was coming, but Operation Sanctuary had just passed its first test. The Void Hunters arrived at dawn. From her position in the Lunar Command Center, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as space itself seemed to tear open. The quantum sensors screamed warnings as massive shapes emerged from the dimensional rift. Dark, writhing forms that made the scout vessel look like a mere speck in comparison. Multiple hunter vessels detected, the AI assistant announced, its voice eerily calm. counting 17 capital ships and approximately 40 smaller craft. Velra's crystalline form pulsed with recognition. The same fleet that destroyed our homeworld. They followed our quantum wake exactly as we predicted. Sarah straightened her shoulders, keying the global command frequency. This is Director Chen. All defensive stations. Execute Protocol Aegis. Civilian populations to designated shelters. This is not a drill. Around the Earth, humanity's preparations sprang to life. The crystalline defense arrays brightened, their energy synchronizing with the planet's magnetic field. In orbit, the hybrid fleet, 12 ships combining human ingenuity with Lumini technology, moved into formation. Hunter fleet approaching Luna orbit, Tactical reported. Their energy signatures are. They're attempting to establish their quantum disruption field. Sarah nodded grimly. Just like you said they would, Velra. Let them come closer. Let them think it's working. The hunter vessels moved with terrible grace, their dark forms stretching and contracting as they approached. Where they passed, space itself seemed to decay, reality fraying at the edges. But this time, they weren't facing a single civilization caught unaware. They're within range of the lunar arrays, Dr. Patil announced. Ready on your mark. Sarah watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment. The hunters had to be fully committed to their attack run, too close to escape what was coming. All stations, she commanded, execute Thunderbolt protocol. The lunar surface lit up as dozens of hidden crystalline arrays activated. The hunters' quantum disruption field met something they had never encountered before, a carefully tuned resonance wave that matched Earth's magnetic frequency, amplified by Lumini technology and focused by human precision. The lead hunter vessel shuddered, its dark mass rippling as it tried to adapt. But this wasn't the simple defense that had destroyed the scout. This was the full power of two civilizations working in concert. Direct hit on the lead vessel, Tactical reported. Its quantum structure is destabilizing. Wait, the others are adapting. They're changing formation. The hunter fleet split apart, trying to envelope the lunar defenses. But Sarah had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Launch the hybrid fleet, she ordered. All ships, execute attack pattern Phoenix. The 12 Earth Lumini vessels moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. Their crystalline hulls caught the sunlight, refracting it in ways that confused the hunters' quantum-based senses. As they engaged, they demonstrated something the hunters had never faced: unpredictability. Where Lumini ships had fought with precise, logical patterns, these hybrid vessels moved with human intuition. They struck from impossible angles, used the moon's gravity to slingshot into attack positions, and coordinated in ways that defied conventional space combat tactics. Hunter vessels 7 and 12 have been neutralized, the AI reported, but the others are coordinating their quantum fields. They're trying to create a cascade effect. Sarah had expected this. Now, Velra. The Lumini commander activated their secret weapon, the quantum resonance chamber they'd built into the lunar facility. It sent out a pulse that matched the hunter's own quantum frequency, but with a crucial difference. Instead of breaking matter down, it forced it to remain stable. The effect was devastating. Hunter vessels caught in the pulse found themselves unable to maintain their fluid form. Their dark masses crystallized, becoming brittle and fragile. All ships, concentrate fire on the crystallized targets, Sarah ordered. Don't let them adapt. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Human missiles guided by Lumini sensors struck with perfect precision. Hybrid ships danced through the chaos, their crews demonstrating the best of both species' capabilities. But the hunters were not easily defeated. 3 of them broke through the lunar defense line, heading straight for Earth. They're making for the Atlantic, Dr. Patel shouted. If they reach the ocean. They won't, Sarah said firmly. Admiral Rodriguez, your turn. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, arrays of crystalline resonators activated. The Earth's magnetic field, already strengthened by the global defense network, surged. The ocean itself became a weapon, its electromagnetic properties amplified to create a barrier that no quantum-based entity could penetrate. The hunters slammed into this invisible wall at full speed. For a moment, they tried to push through, their dark forms stretching and distorting. Then, caught between the ocean's enhanced magnetic field and the pursuing hybrid fleet's weapons, they began to break apart. Last hunter vessels attempting to retreat, Tactical announced. They're opening quantum rifts. Not this time, Sarah growled. All ships, execute final attack run. Don't let them escape to threaten anyone else. The hybrid fleet moved as one, their crystalline weapons firing in perfect synchronization. The remaining hunters, already damaged and disoriented, couldn't withstand the assault. One by one, they were torn apart, their quantum structures scattered to the solar wind. As the final hunter vessel disintegrated, silence fell over the command center. Then, slowly, cheers began to rise. Human and Lumini alike celebrated, their joy transcending the differences between their species. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she looked at the tactical display, now clear of enemy signals. They had done it. They had faced humanity's first interstellar threat and emerged victorious. But as she turned to Velra, she knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. 1 year after the Battle of Luna, Sarah Chen stood in the great crystal dome of New Haven, watching Lumini children play with human kids in the artificial gravity field. The habitat, built into a transformed section of the Greenland ice sheet, sparkled with combined human and Lumini engineering. It was a testament to what their species could achieve together. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Admiral Rodriguez said, joining her at the observation window. 2 years ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now look at us. Sarah smiled as she watched a young Lumini, its crystalline form barely taller than its human playmates, attempt to learn hopscotch. The child's light patterns pulsed with joy and confusion as it tried to understand the concept of jumping on one leg. The council is meeting today to discuss the expansion program, she said. The Lumini have finished analyzing the data from the Hunter battle. They believe they can help us adapt their quantum drive technology to work with our ship designs. And in return, we're helping them learn to think like humans. Rodriguez chuckled. Who would have thought our greatest contribution to an advanced alien species would be teaching them to be unpredictable? Velray approached, its crystalline form now adorned with symbols of both Lumini and human authority. The children's adaptation continues to exceed expectations. They understand now why our civilization's pursuit of perfect order made us vulnerable to the hunters. Through play with human children, they're learning creativity, spontaneity, and how to drive their teachers crazy, Sarah added with a laugh. Just like human kids. The dome's lighting shifted, indicating the approach of sunset. In the distance, they could see the massive form of the first true hybrid starship under construction. Unlike the warships they'd built to fight the hunters, this vessel was designed for exploration. Its name, chosen by both species, was Promise. The quantum wake signatures we detected during the battle, Velra said, its lights forming complex patterns of excitement. Some of them weren't from the hunters. There are other civilizations out there, hiding just as we were. Now that we have a defense against the hunters, we can find them. Sarah finished. Let them know they don't have to hide anymore. A small commotion drew their attention back to the playing children. A human girl had fallen, scraping her knee. Before any adults could react, her Lumini playmates surrounded her, their forms generating soft, soothing light patterns they'd learned could help humans feel better. One of them carefully helped her up while another used its light patterns to create amusing shapes, making her laugh through her tears. You know, Rodriguez said softly, when we first launched Operation Sanctuary, we thought we were just protecting Earth and saving the Lumini. But we were doing something much bigger, weren't we? Sarah nodded, watching as human and Lumini children resumed their play, the incident already forgotten. We were proving that different species could not only coexist but make each other better. The hunters failed because they could only destroy. We won because we chose to build something together. Velra's lights pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as profound emotion. When we came to Earth, we were desperate refugees with nothing to offer but knowledge and a warning. You could have turned us away. Instead, you promised to protect our children. But you gave us something even more precious. What's that? Rodriguez asked. Hope, the alien replied simply. Not just for our species, but for all who might be out there, waiting to be found. The sun set over New Haven, its light catching the crystalline structures and creating rainbows that danced across the dome. In orbit, defense satellites maintained their vigilant watch, their hybrid technology a constant reminder of what humanity and the Lumini had accomplished together. But it was inside the dome where the real miracle could be seen. Children of two worlds, playing together without fear or prejudice, creating something new and wonderful in their innocent interactions. They were the first generation of what Sarah now knew would be an incredible future. As she watched them, Sarah remembered that first night in the Arctic when she'd chosen to open the airlock to desperate refugees from the stars. That simple act of trust had changed everything. The promise launches next month, she said, looking at her companions. We've already received volunteer crews from both species. There are a lot of scared civilizations out there, hiding from the hunters. Time to let them know that darkness isn't in charge anymore. Velra's lights formed the pattern for agreement, while Rodriguez smiled and nodded. Above them, the first stars began to appear through the crystal dome. They weren't just points of light anymore. They were destinations, filled with possibilities and potential new allies waiting to be found. The promise humanity had made in that first encounter, to protect those who sought sanctuary, had grown into something far greater. It had become a commitment to building a better galaxy, one where no species need face the darkness alone. And it had all started with a simple choice to help those in need, proving that sometimes the most human thing we can do is extend a hand, or whatever appendage is appropriate, to those different from ourselves. The future was bright, and it belonged to all of them.